Okay, so I guess this had to be shown because I think a lot of heat is on the developers of BlackMyth because of the fact that it was canceled on Xbox indefinitely due to performance issues. So people were like, okay, if it's not going to work on Xbox, if it's crashing on PC, what is going to be like on PS5? But apparently, this footage has been in China for a long time. I'm talking about years ago. And I think that they should have revealed this just for transparency because people are skeptical. But at the end of the day, even with this gameplay, it looks good, doesn't it? Right? But the PC gameplay looked good before as well. And from the review, there have been numerous crashes and other bug and UI issues. Not to say that this game is not going to be good. Every game comes with its bugs, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, we just have to wait and see how it plays once we get our hands on it in a couple of days. But I do appreciate Game Science for revealing this gameplay. The purpose of this video is just to talk about the review in general and just go over how I feel about what we've seen so far since we have so much more information as this game release comes closer. After reviewing BlackMyth WuKong, it seems like the only similarity it has with a Souls-like game is the difficulty. There's no penalty for dying, you don't lose any currency, or you don't have to worry about losing progress. But the boss battles and enemy encounters are pretty tough in general and require some practice to master, which is normal. The game looks and feels amazing, but that didn't come without its faults either. Now hold up, I'm not trying to highlight all the negatives, but I want to give you an honest review based on what I've experienced. When it comes to the game's performance on PC, there were numerous crashes, some UI bugs, and dialogue issues. So to say that this game has numerous crashes alone is telling, because in the benchmark video I made, I showed my PC specs, which are more than capable of running the game smoothly. Even with that though, the game is awesome from a fun factor perspective, combat, and just playing the game. So it feels like it's kind of worth it to go through these problems simply because the game is so awesome. The way you have to use your dodge to build up focus points, allowing you to execute certain abilities, it gives you a goal during combat that you can actually focus on to get better. And when it comes to builds, there are numerous slots like body armor, greaves, legs, etc., each with its own separate benefits, so you can build according to how you want to play. And this game is linear, which means that it's not really open world. It kind of helps you along through the path, but there are certain areas that you can go explore off the beaten path, and this can accentuate your build and make it better in ways that permanently increase your health or your mana, which is one thing that you have to manage strategically in order to win these fights. Certain skills cost a lot more to use, so you got to use them sparingly and be smart. That's the one thing that I respect about this game. It's not easy, it challenges you, and it helps you to get better. When it comes to the builds, this is kind of weird, because it seems to me that they've adopted a looter style with this. Here's what I mean. There's a rarity system, and as you progress through the game, you'll undoubtedly find stronger gear, ultimately discarding the older, weaker gear. You can't upgrade it. And I don't like this system. I've never really enjoyed it. I mean, when you have a looter shooter game, it completely makes sense because the whole point of the game is to grind and loot to find the best top tier gear. So you want to find that gear that helps you get the better gear. So it's part of the whole loot system game. This game is not a looter shooter, it's an action RPG. So adding rare and different tiers of gear is not really something that goes with the whole aesthetic of the game. And it's strange because the spells you attain can be upgraded so that the earlier ones don't get weak as you level up. Why not have the same mechanic with the gear? Just doesn't make sense to me. And this is another difference between BlackMyth WuKong and a game like Elden Ring. For example, in WuKong, before going into a boss fight, you don't have the tough choice of deciding which set is the best and most optimal to defeat the boss. Like in Elden Ring, you can get an armor piece, right? A named armor piece at the beginning of the game. And when you get to the end of the game, you can go back and use that piece of armor because you've upgraded it to the same level of any other gear that you got in the game. And you're using it because it strategically works in that boss fight. In WuKong, you just discard weaker gear based on what else you get. So I think they could have done better with that. Despite all this, the game is fun and has very engaging and tough combat. I particularly like how the dodge and evade aren't just used to avoid damage. They actually give you an incentive to dodge more effectively, since a successful dodge is tied to focus points that allow you to perform abilities. I think this system is a great motivator to get good. But let's quickly pivot back to the performance issues because this might be more of a problem than we think. I did a little research on Game Science, the company actually developing BlackMyth, and found that they're fairly new to the game development scene. I mean, they were founded in 2016, that's not really new, but what I mean is that they have little experience releasing games especially on console. Game Science is a video game developer headquartered in the Zhou district in Hangzhou, Zhejiang. I mean, I'm not going to read the rest. Pardon my pronunciation, but that's the best I can do. They were founded June 13, 2014. I guess they started in 2016. But besides WuKong, the only other games they have on their resume are called Art of War, Red Tides. It's an RTS game that combines elements of tower defense with large-scale cross-platform multiplayer battles, and 100 Heroes, which is in development right now, and we haven't really heard much information about it since they've gotten so much attention with BlackMyth WuKong. But this is telling because it tells a lot about how BlackMyth might perform on consoles if there are multiple crashes on PC that we notice, right? So my concern is if they're experienced enough to optimize BlackMyth for consoles. If you go to the Steam store page and look at the PC requirements, the minimum PC requirements that is, a Ryzen 5 or i5 Intel are both considered average. Now, I don't think the processor has much to do with the performance when it comes to graphics. That's more of a GPU area. But like I said, they're considered average because they jump to a 7 and 9 in both. They also require a pretty low-end GPU at 1060. Then, if you look into the recommended section, they jump to an i7 9700 Intel or a Ryzen 5 5500 with an RTX 2060 GPU. This is a significant upgrade in terms of hardware, but still, it doesn't explain the crashes and bugs, at least in my case, because my rig specs far exceed all of the requirements. So I hope, for console's sake, that they can get a smooth transition. But if you didn't know this, Xbox's release date has been delayed indefinitely due to these reasons I'm talking about here, but that's not a discussion for this video. But I do go into detail about all of that in another video because I don't know about you, but if I were an Xbox exclusive user, I'd be pissed. Anyways, that'll do it for this one, fam. If you enjoy this in any way, then I'd appreciate a like on the video, and also subscribe if you're new here. I'll be covering WuKong extensively on my channel, and I would love to have you here. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Be right out.